If you haven't seen the previous video about the explanation of this door, where I go into quite a lot of detail of how it works in general, go and watch that. But in this video, I'm just going to be building it and explaining all the things you need to know about how to build it. I probably won't go into too much detail as to how it works in this one because I've already done one on that. But yeah, let's get straight into it. So the layout, I'll just do that first, is quite simple. So the top is just a quadruple extender. And then in order to power the pistons here, we use a detector rail there and another one here. So that will be the swapper piston. So this will be able to pull it in, and then that will push across, and similarly that'll do that, and that will get all three of those. Okay, and then the inputs to this are very, very simple, of course, with just 3 dust. Now we also have some side pistons. So on this side we have 4. We don't need this top one here because this one already serves that function. And on the other side we are going to need all 5, although there's still only 4 because that top one acts as one as well. Okay, now the bottom input here, well, the bottom layout is quite simple. So it's just a triple extender with all normal pistons that has room for 3 storage there, and then our final storage goes here, here, and then a double extender to push them across. Okay, so now we're going to do the inputs on the bottom, but we're also going to do that and show the locationality, because this door is quite locational, unfortunately. It's very difficult to make it non-locational in the size, so just going to bear with me. So this here is locational. We have to make it so that it powers both pistons like so. If it powers the front one first, not the back one, it won't work. It won't work in your location. This bottom part here is also locational. So what we're going to have is a target block, a note block, and then dust. So this dust has to power the bottom piston, not the top one. And then this here has to power all the bottom pistons and then the top piston. So it has to do, oops, this here will be redirected, so that won't be a problem. Come on. So like so. If I redo that. If it does anything else, unfortunately, again, the door won't work in your location. And this also is, this part here is directional, so this will only work in the east-west direction. Okay, so I know that sucks, but now that's just how it is. So now we got that out of the way, we can actually start with building it. Now, the main reason I'm splitting the video at all into explanation and tutorial parts is because you have to build it in quite a weird order in order for the entities to work. So that's, again, just another case of just the way it is, really. But yes, so the first thing we want to do is get a dispenser there, and then a hopper right there, and then we're going to be placing a repeater on that because we're going to need a minecart clipped inside of here. Okay, so this has to be a reverse clip due to this repeater. We can't use the new reverse clip because there is a block there which has to be there because it's movable. Okay, so from this block, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across, and then all powered rails there, then a regular rail, then more powered rails here, which will be turned off. So then what we're going to do is place an anvil here. This is just to make it slightly more consistent in the building method. Chest minecart up to there. Flower pot underneath. We can then push this up with a fence. This means we can remove the flower pot and we have a bit of space here. And push this. Make sure this piston here is removed. That is my bad. We need to. We just make this something else rather than a fence. End rod should work. Like so. And this is so that when we then get ourselves a regular piston and this location, oops, we can push and pull and it won't move the minecart again. That's what we want. Okay, so be careful, don't remove the fence just yet. Instead what we want to do is get ourselves a stair, because currently this would just fall. It's not far enough into the hopper to be able to be supported at the height it's at. But if we push in the stair, which we need anyway for the water to be dispensed into, we can see there that it will just be able to sit on the middle stair of the staircase. Okay, that's the first part of that we need. And the next thing is we're going to get from this hopper all the way over to this hopper, using the new sort of extended minecart chains. But of course it's not quite so simple, because we're going to have a hopper dropper there, this will have an output including a comparator which is immovable, and this here will also will have a repeater on it. So we have quite a lot of obstacles in the way, but that's okay. So because it's covering 4 blocks, we need 3 minecarts. The first one we're going to do is the middle one, which we're going to go into here. So we need a reverse clip, but because there's a soul sand and it has lots of internal hitboxes, it can actually slow the minecart down. So we can't put a normal rail underneath here, which is what underneath the block, which is what we normally do. So instead we're going to have to go use just all powered rails and just have the signal strength run out. So I think that's far enough. Can never quite remember. So you can see there that this one's on, but that one's off. That's exactly what we need. And then just go a couple more up here so we can place our furnace minecart like so, and then send in our hopper minecart like so. Okay, when this drops, it'll go to sit at 0.375, and we can see that's true. That's the height that we want, and then we can remove these rails. Okay, next what we're going to do is push it across so we have room for the other one. We just push it with a honey block like so, push it quite far, and we can also push it in with a regular piston. Okay, now we're going to get this bottom one, so it needs to be facing in the same direction, and then we need to, because we also need to clip it inside of both this dropper and this soul sand, which is in effect immovable due to the comparator. We're going to need to do it from underneath in the soles with a fireman clip. You could do it separately by adding another minecart, or by getting it precisely in the right place so the two don't interact, but this I find is just a very simple, easy way of doing it, and it's the way I prefer. Hopper minecart run into that chest, and then we're also going to do it with this chest. Remember to move that piston so it can actually push across, and that was my fault. Let's do that again. Hopper minecart. I actually want it pushed over further than a chest, because otherwise it will suck items from the hopper. So we push it with a fence. Now it's more than halfway into this block. The center is over this block, so it won't suck items from the hopper. I can't remember if that's a problem, but it doesn't make much difference to change anyway. Push this into a cauldron. This means it will set at 0.25, and this means that here we can push in our farmland, which I think I have, yes, and it will get pushed up. That's fantastic, and then it'll sit on top of that hopper. Excellent. And then what we can do is just push it, we can then push this minecart across, just remove this temporarily, push that across, and then remove that, and we can see now that this will deliver its items into there. Excellent. Only one more, and this one's really easy. So it needs to be sitting slightly lower than the block, which is why that's a soul sand. So we're just going to get ourselves a chest minecart here. That will drop down, and then we can push it across, and then we can push it inwards like so. Wonderful. So now if we get our item in here, it'll go all the way down to there. Nice. And just before I forget, I'm also just going to put a minecart, any old minecart, on top of that chest minecart, otherwise it will get pushed up, which we don't want. Okay, that's that part done. We're now going to do the return circuit. So it's all being returned to these two droppers here. And there's going to be hoppers going across there, and then a hopper here. Unfortunately, there's a 2 gap here rather than just a 1 gap, which would have been easier because we need an updater here in order to power this piston rather than this one. And then this one here needs a solid block in order to power this piston. And so we need a 2 gap. This one also has a repeater on it, so we really can't use an ordinary clip because otherwise the minecart will be facing in the wrong direction. So instead we're going to have to use a float, which isn't too bad. Okay, so just this one here will have to be a hopper minecart. Remove this, float the minecart, and then what we're going to do is push it, or we can drop it down first onto a flower pot, and then we're going to push it across onto a cobblestone wall. Like so. Next what we're going to do is get another minecart. Be careful you don't place a rail there because it will suck this minecart down. So instead we're going to push it into here and then push it the final block. Like so. Next we just want to push it across onto the other minecart. This will be a soul sand. So now this loop is complete and we just need to make the rest of the blocks be there. And since we can't have a flower pot there, we need it to sit on something, we're going to get ourselves a bell here, which is why that's as a bell rather than a note block, and so this minecart can sit on it. I can't remember whether we have to push this across or not, but I can't be bothered to replace it if we do, so I'm just going to give it a quick push. Now we should be able to remove this. And now when we send an item from here, it should eventually, oh no, I missed, there's one more minecart. It'll go into here, and then we need to have our other minecart that just connects this. So we just get ourselves a chest minecart here, drop it onto a repeater, and then we can push it across into there. So now we send this item, it'll come back into there. It takes a bit longer than I remember. Excellent. And this one here is a soul sand, by the way, just so that this hopper minecart doesn't get pushed up by this piston. Excellent. Okay, so now we can just finish this side of it because there's not much left to do on this side. We have to place the pigman, and that's most of the job done. 3 tick there. This will go into our target and our note block. Cool. And then here we want our regular piston, onto which there will be our zombie pigman. The zombie pigman can in theory be other things, but it's the pigman or a zombie or a pigman, they all work. You could theoretically make it almost any mob, but these ones are easier because their hitbox sticks out the bottom quite a lot. And the reason I choose a pigman is just because it's non-aggressive as long as you don't attack it. A cobble wall is the perfect distance to push it in because it means that this block here won't suffocate it despite the pigman being slightly inside of it. And then we'll just have this as our input for now, and then we can we'll add the other minecarts here later. Okay, here we're going to need a hopper, not a hopper, a redstone dust, which will be a burnout. And then we're also going to have a pressure plate there, and one here. Here we're going to have an armor stand, and to stop the armor stand being pushed up by the upwards piston that's going to be there, we're just going to get a boat right here. Now this is another advantage of having the chest minecart at 0.5 sitting on there, because it means the minecart sitting on top of that minecart finishes at 0.9, meaning that the boat can sit on the block above. Excellent. And to stop the boat being pushed across by more pistons, what we're going to do is get a cauldron right here, so it won't get pushed across because it has sort of horizontal internal hitboxes. Okay, so now we're going to continue on with this. We're just going to finish the rest of these inputs since there's nothing else of note that goes on in the vicinity. Right here. Now here what we're going to have is one of those, a comparator I believe they're called, and this is going to go across into a dropper hopper. Great. Now this is another place where the order of building things is quite important, so hopefully I'm going to get it right. So here we're going to want an ordinary chest minecart clip, and we're going to want to float it over. So because it's inside of a hopper, for some reason the method doesn't work and we need to put a chest there, and make sure all other full hitbox blocks like the quartz that was there are removed. Then we can float that, and then we can push it, put this dropper back into place. That is so that this dropper here will put its items into there. Very nice. This will clock until we have until this is placed inside. There we go. Okay, so next we're going to place another hopper minecart. This will suck the items from the dropper. So we just drop this down. We can't access it after the fact, so what we're going to need to do now is get our items in here. So we need all of the slots filled, so we can put other items in here, and then 8 in there. You can put more if you want, but 8 is the minimum, and just be careful you don't ever break it. Then we want to zero tick a soul sand there, and then we can finally start working on the floated armor stand, which we're gonna do right down here just to give us space. Okay, so next what we're going to do is place the armor stand. If we just come down here, it will save us a bit of space. Plenty of room is nicer. So we want to get 7 blocks out, so 6 out. I'm just going to make this one another obsidian just so to mark the ends. And this one I recommend making it some resilient block if you're actually building it, because it's really annoying if you misplace your armor stand. Okay, here we're just going to want a minecart into which we're going to have any mob you want. The mob is simply to stop the boats and minecarts we're going to place colliding with each other. Okay, and we can test that's a float just like this, and it is. So next what we're going to do is start placing our boats. And if there weren't mobs in here, they don't have to be chickens, but if there weren't any mobs, then all of these boats would push each other and they wouldn't cause our minecart later to float. The reason I'm using chickens is just because I feel like, whether this is misguided or not, I don't know, I feel like they're probably one of the easier mobs to sort of transport around in a survival game, given that you can just use an egg. We're going to need eggs for this build anyway, so nice. So that's 4 armor stands and 4 boats, sorry. So now what we can do is push an armor stand across into there, and this means that this here will be a floated armor stand. That's great. We're just going to kill the chickens first This means that they have no chance of moving anything later. And now what we have to do is do it all again. So I'm just going to push this over by a couple blocks just to give us some space. And I'll probably one thing I would recommend here is when you get near the end is to push it from this block here rather than the other one, just to risk any movement of the other of the armor stand. But anyway, now we're at the end, we can push this back over, and now what we should find is that this here should do that, which is exactly what we want. So now what we can do is start pushing it upwards. So one thing you can do if you're feeling brave is to just bounce it up and then get a block in. This way you can save yourself quite a lot of time, but I'm not sure it's really worth trying to do, because I could have already got it up to the top by now, but oh well, it's fun. Okay, now we can push it up again, and now from here we're going to have to start using the farmland clip to get it into these other blocks. Where we can either block it or we can just wait it out. Oh yeah, so now it's in the block above. We can do it again. And now we can just push it up here, and because the soul sound is slightly less than the block, it'll sit on top. Perfect. And this way, when we have our piston here, that'll pull it up. Perfect. We have to be really careful we don't move it, but yes. One thing in here that I missed, oh, that's a mess, and that is that this minecart here will be able to be pushed across, which we don't want. And so to compensate for this, just put a block there. You want a regular minecart, you could use a hopper minecart as well, but and then push this across. I will sit slightly over there and I'll stop this minecart being pushed across. We don't have to worry about it being pushed that way because the dropper will stop that, but being pushed that way, that minecart blocks it. And the reason it has to be a regular minecart rather than a furnace, which I would normally use, is because it keeps it seamless with the floor. We can just yeet those people off into the void, and then we can carry on. So we're nearly done with the bottom now. We've got most of the annoying entities, but not quite all of them. So what we're going to have in here, this will just be a hopper and then a dropper. This is the disposal system for the eggs that we're going to have. Now I normally just put them in a cauldron. It just doesn't catch all, you could just dump them because this doesn't actually catch them all perfectly. I believe in 1.17 that could be a lava one filled with lava, and I think that destroys items. In the meantime, if you really need to destroy the items, just put a lava source there and block it in with a block there and there. But it doesn't really matter. Okay. 4 tick, 4 tick, and then this will be a 3 tick, but it's going to be on top of a soul sand. And we're going to put another, we're doing another minecart into here. So because again, because there is a repeater, we're going to need to do a reverse clip. Do it like so. So that one's off. So in here we're going to have our furnace minecart, just push it in slightly, and then, oh, where is it? Here. Minecart and a B, like so, and then what we're going to get is our flower pot, like so, and we're going to push this up using an end rod height. And then we can push this across. Since it's a passive mob, I don't believe we have to rename it, but because I need to rename the pigment anyway. we can do that. Oh, I've already got the name tag ready. We'll just name it, and the pigment will have to be renamed. Excellent. And the reason it's sitting at that height is so we can have another minecart sitting on top of it, which will have the right properties, again explained in the previous video. So there's going to be a hopper minecart, which will suck items from the hopper minecart above it, float it, and then push it in. So this will have grabbed a few items. So we can see in here, it's got 2 there. Just put them back. We can't have it sucking too many out. But when this pushes up, it'll grab 7 items exactly, which is very important. Don't retract this piston actually until we have a fence gate attached. Otherwise it will push up again and suck more items. And those items will get sucked into here, because this is floated over. So when we do that, we'll get 7 items exactly into there, and 7 for the 7 moves of the tape. Great. Here we're going to have a comparator. This will power the tape. This will note block will cause it to power this for the disposal, and this for the tape. We're going to have our 2 torches going up here. Like, oh, oops. Come on. And 1 up here. These are just going to go up and across. Nothing special. Sorry, I get a bit paranoid about that. Piston, not piston, minecart. We're going to have a hopper here. This puts items inside of that hopper minecart, and 1 here, and then of course we're going to have the cauldron full of chickens. Now I like to just separate it from the build by a few blocks, just to be safe. As many chickens as you want in here really. Too many and it will start having entity cramming issues and lag. Too few and your door will have a really long reset. But of course the reset isn't actually too bad because there's a buffer, so you don't have to wait for it every single time. And then of course we can just push this into there, and the hopper will stop them jumping out. Of course it's going to take a while for that to fill up, so I would recommend you just have using your separate egg farm. I assume people still have egg farms, I don't know. Fill that up. Cool. It's locked by that. And then we're going to want another armor stand in here, which we're going to push across into a cobble wall. I can't remember whether it's a problem if you push from lower, but I like to push from up here. I feel like I try to avoid moving that at all costs because it's so annoying to have to redo. Okay, in here, put in your double piston extender. In here, this just has to be a wooden or stone pressure plate. And this one here has to be an iron or gold pressure plate. And don't forget your dust there. Now, obviously it's not allowed in the final thing, but for now, just for testing, I like to keep an obsidian here, because if this whole row gets pushed across, it not only moves this armor stand, but it breaks the floated armor stand, which is very annoying to have to redo. So now we can just give this double extender a quick test. It's my favourite part of the whole door, that double extender. Now we can push this here across, because I just forgot to do the little burnout there. Now in theory this should be the whole of the bottom done, except for the fact that I need to fill all this with items. So we just need 1 in there, and then in here we're just gonna have to start spamming items. fill up all of these, all of this one, all of that, all of this chest, which actually even and then has to be a chest minecart. You can't make it a hopper minecart for fewer slots, because otherwise it'll suck items from both of those minecarts above. And then here we just need a few items here. I can't remember how many. It's probably not that many. And then in here we need more eggs. Fill this up and this one, and this way if there's a grey item that comes in, it'll go into there, and if it's an egg, it'll go into there. Nice. I believe then that should be hopefully everything. Obviously I don't expect it to work first time, because I normally forget something in a build as so intricate as this one. And hopefully whatever mistake I have or haven't made won't break everything. Okay, when we push in this block, it's going to activate the burnout. Okay, when we do the closing, we're going to have make sure we have an immovable block there. This is fine because in the real thing we'll just be using this extended piston as the immovable block. And let's see what happens. So we're going to push this down. Oh, also one other thing I forgot, which we don't need for the closing but we will need afterwards, is water in that dispenser. And it won't flow out this way because of the pressure plate. I assume I've forgotten a dust there. Yes. Okay. We're gonna just try doing that again. So in theory that shouldn't have taken anything from there. Perfect, and those should both be fine. And we're also going to need an item in there, which I forgot. My bad. And we need an item in here. But if we had that item, I'm sure that would have worked. And we have our 6 items in there and 1 item in here, which is correct. And then what will happen is that will push down all the way. I won't bother doing the whole retraction for now. That will retract. We won't have that. And we're going to extend this and retract it and see what happens. And we can speed this up. Excellent, so that is the bottom of the door completely working. Oh, except we can remove that. Cool, okay, so now we're going to be going through the top, which should be significantly easier to build than the bottom. The bottom is very difficult, the top is actually not so bad. So the first part we're going to do is the bad part. So it's not, you know, completely safe. And that is just the minecarts that are going to activate this detector rail, which can be quite difficult. Remove the detector rail, make your life a bit easier. Okay, so first what we're going to want is to clip in a minecart here, and due to the fact that there's a repeater, we're going to need to do a reverse clip, but that's not so bad. 3 powered rails, regular rail, and then 2 more unpowered rails. Send in your furnace minecart, and it will stop at about the right height. We can put a flower pot there, push it up with a slab. I believe a slab is what we want. No, a soul sand is what we want. Like so. Next what we're going to do is push it across with a fence. That is so that otherwise it'll get pulled onto the rail, it'll clip on, whereas here it'll stay where it is. And then what we can do is push it across using a honey block. No, not a honey block, that is incorrect. We want to push it over into this trapdoor. If you use a honey block, it will actually break. Excellent. Next, what we want is to place the minecart onto which this one will rest. So we're going to get a chest right here. Well, I should do it there instead. Actually, it's best if we do it there. Furnace minecart right there. And then push it across. Then push it up with a cauldron, or you could use a soul sand or something else, but farmland, right, like so. That's just to, it's a bit easier than using a reverse clip to get into there. Again, there's probably better methods with some of these, but it's just what I've been using. Then we can drop that and it will sit slightly on top of the other minecart. Now, we still have to worry about the fact that this will push it across, which we don't want. So we're going to get another furnace minecart here, which we're then going to push across. And then the other problem is that this can get pulled up and then it will sit on top of the repeater, which again, we really don't want. So another minecart furnace in there, which we're then going to push across using a trapdoor. And then this should fall there. Now this actually won't pull the minecart back because it's not far enough into the piston. This internal hitbox doesn't pull it, so we don't have to worry about that. But now when we get ourselves a detector rail here, it'll activate there. Very nice. The other side is significantly easier. We just need to get our furnace minecart here. Push it up, I guess, and then we can, and then we just need to have it sit on top of anything else. You can push it into whatever you want. An end rod will probably be quite visually appealing, which I just messed up. Like so. That took a lot longer than I was expecting. And then we can put another furnace minecart in underneath, which it will then sit on. Nice. So now when we push this here, it'll activate and deactivate. So the minecart doesn't get pulled up. Again, we're just going to put a soul sand inside of it. So now it can't get pulled up. And just push this down. Cool. So that's those minecarts done. Those are the most complicated entities on the top. And we can just fill the gaps back in. Cool. Okay, so next what we're going to deal with is we're going to go from the input to the bottom, I'd say. So we're going to have a cauldron right here, and this is right here, sorry, and it's going to activate our pistons, our side pistons. So this detector rail will get these ones, and to get the top one we're going to get a slab. Important it's a slab so it doesn't bud that piston, and then we need to use a weighted pressure plate of some sort. Next, what we're going to do, we should actually probably say put that in later. We're just going to put that minecart in there, and then what we're going to do is get another minecart here, and we're going to push it across. And because minecarts are slightly less than a block, they're only 0.98 of a block, this has 1 centimeter of space it can sit on. So now that will activate that, and this is sitting low enough that it'll activate that. I don't actually really want to activate the bottom here, so I'm just going to remove the pressure plates. Cool. So that's how we activate the bottom of the door and the side pistons. So this here we activate with a dust from a comparator. This here will be another dust, which is what powers the pistons when they're extended, and also has the nice upright order, because if you power the bottom piston before the top one, the rail will break. And then here, this shouldn't be location dependent, despite the fact that it kind of looks like it might be. Dust here. This will put it into a hopper, and then that will put it into another hopper here. So here we just need an ordinary minecart clip. Take our output from there, and this will put the items down via this dropper, which I would like to face downward. Oops. And this will just put its items into there. Cool. So our input is actually right on top of this hopper, because we aim to lock the hopper. And we're going to have a torch there, a torch there. That torch is going to power this dropper, like so, which is what powers that piston. And then in order to retract the, do this retraction, that's what we're going to do in here, using another minecart. So just push in that. This needs to be a solid block. This needs to have a wooden pressure plate, it needs to be a long pulse. Due to the way that this here and this here interact, if they were to be different pressure plates, they could depower it at the same time, causing the rail, causing this block, this piston here to update before this one, meaning that the rail breaks. I think that's what happens. It took me a very long time to troubleshoot that, but using a long pressure plate here and a short pressure plate here, that can't happen. Any other combination, it can break. And power that using a torch. Excellent. And there's going to be 34 items in there. Now taking this across, we're going to have a block there. Oh, I need to actually place the burnout in at some point, don't I? And this will go across and power. Good, I was checking those hadn't moved. This, that will power this in the closing and also block this off in the closing, because we're just powering this straight up in the closing, and we don't want it to constantly cause this cauldron here to be giving power to this line, so we just block it off from the side. And this is only 3 signal strength, so it doesn't power the hopper, power these droppers, because that would break during the opening. And then 4 tick there, and here you can also be a 3, but a 4 tick looks nicer. And then this could just remove the dust for lag's sake, because it needs to update this piston. And then all we need to do now is power this with a 2 tick. And then after this, I believe we'll be able to test the top. This would just get updated by rail or a note block. Okay, we can have our item in there. This needs to be pushed up. We're just going to test the top before we test them together, and we're stopping at powering the bottom because we don't really want that right now. Okay, so the top, so that is the top there working. It's you can open it after the cooldown finishes, which is when this hopper no longer has any items in it. Which is now. It's quite a long cooldown, but it's not too bad. And then here, this one is a waste, and then we're going to have a few more clocks of this, which are going to slowly pull the block back up. There we go, that's the top fully working. So now what we need to do is connect it to the bottom. So this side is obviously just using the piston we placed earlier. And this side is going to use some detector rails. So here we're going to place a minecart in the wall. Which will get powered by that detector rail. And then we're also going to want another minecart in the wall. Oops. Right here. Or is it one lower? This should work. It is actually fairly flexible. You can change the order slightly because there's quite a lot of room left on the top, which is always nice to have. Okay, so now we can have this detector rail for the bottom two pistons, and also that detector rail for the next two pistons. I like it facing this way, so I'm just going to replace that. Cool. Then we can place our activator rail. This will get pushed down, and then this will just get pushed all the way up. That's actually 12 block push limit there. And hopefully that should be the whole door complete. So we're going to give this a quick test and hope dearly for the best. Okay, the closing worked in its entirety, and now we just got to wait for this cooldown. I don't know quite why it did that, but it doesn't seem to have broken anything. Maybe it just does that. I honestly can't remember, it's been a while. And then we can open it. Okay, pushed all the way down. The top should work as we just tested it a second ago. And the bottom's going to power now. And of course our tape here, easiest to speed up through it. And there we go. Let's just watch it from the other side. It's quite hard to catch the closing in time. So the input's quite simple. Just power this block in any way. You can even have the input right there. So it's fully enclosed, which is quite cool. And that should be it for this video. Go and check out the explanation video if you haven't already, which goes into much more detail on how into how the redstone actually works. This video was just about how to build it, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you will stick around for the next one.